This is Ethan Musolini, the merchant of success. And today is another episode of Personal Finance and Wealth Creation podcast. And the vision and the inspiration behind this is really for me to look out, dig around, search around for mentors, coaches, if I find inspirational and transformational, who have mastered the game of money, the game of wealth creation, such that I can learn. That's one area I feel is my Achilles heel, for lack of a better word. And I want to get better and stronger in that space. But I didn't want to just keep it to myself. I also want to share the goodies with the rest of the world. So just before me, the gentleman you're seeing looking cool, I was telling him, look, I didn't brand myself with more beers like he does. He looks cooler. And, he's telling me how he's a family man and I'm a family man, and we're sharing stories about our children. So that alone was a big connection. And before us is Nathan Vaughn. Do you pronounce your second name as Vaughn? Is that a correct pronunciation?
That is correct. Yep.
Yeah, Nathan Vaughn, and he's an amazing gentleman. And the topic or subject we are going to talk about today, it is something that he coaches and trains and mentors people on a daily basis. So you are in great company without paying the big dollars he charges. So Nathan, please, for people who don't know you, please go ahead and share with us your story. Who is this Nathan Vaughn?
Sure. Yeah. If do we have an hour, right? Do we have a long time? Right? Do we have plenty of time? No. So,
Yes, go ahead.
so my journey into finance actually started like a lot of people. I was frustrated not understanding money, and I grew up in probably a middle class type of environment, right? I was blessed. I had good parents. I won the lottery in many ways when it came to kind of how I grew up.
Yeah.
But I recognized that there was difference between even where I was living compared to other individuals around me, right? They had larger homes, they were larger in companies, they drove nicer cars. And I recognized this really early in my life. I was about 12 or 13 years old
Yeah.
when I started recognizing there's a difference here between my life and someone else's life.
Yeah.
And instead of saying like, well, that's unfair, why is their life so much better than mine, even though mine was amazing, I said, well, what are they doing different? What are they doing
Wow.
different than
Wow.
I am, or what my dad is? Because that was the biggest thing. Because I was 13 years old, right? I was not anywhere near to raising a family. My dad was the primary breadwinner. And so I remember sitting down with my dad, and this was all inspired by going through a Boy Scouts. I don't know if you're familiar with that program. There's a Boy Scouts
Yes,
of America.
it's
Are you
one of those.
familiar?
I'm familiar. I did not participate, but I'm familiar. It's one of those things. I'm like,
Yeah,
damn, I missed the boat for
right. So
participate. Yes, go ahead. Yeah.
So in the Boy Scouts program, you earned merit badges or for accomplishments. One of those accomplishments, merit badges, was personal finance. And
Ah.
so I was taking this class. I was taking this merit badge course to understand personal finance. And
Mm.
between seeing this difference of other people's living and taking this class, I was thinking there's a difference of what people are doing. We're not doing it. So what can I do, learn to be better at that? And it was interesting. So I asked
How
my
old were you
dad that.
then?
I
Was
was
that
13
still
years old.
around the age of 30? What age?
13 years old.
13. Wow.
Yeah. So I was weird. I was weird.
Yeah. Weird good. I would add weird good.
Right,
That
right.
was good weirdness. Yeah.
So I asked my dad this question. I said, why do people live better lives than we do? Why, what's the difference between you? Because I know you've got a good job. You tell me all the time you've got a good job and you love it, but does that doesn't make sense, because if you say you have a good job, then why are other people living a better life than us? And he
Wow.
and he said something that was profound to me. I still remember to this day. I'm 31 years old, 13, that's 20, almost 20 years at this point. He said, Nathan, it's because they were smarter with money.
Wow. Is your dad still alive?
Yep, he's still alive.
Please.
And we still talk. I was just with him, last week, and now he's moved on to bigger and better things. He's in a better job, a better good job at this point, and I understand what that looks like. And he actually comes to me for financial advice quite often now. But that's what started my finance journey, was that question
Wow.
and that answer of, they were smarter with money. They were
Yeah,
smarter with money, Nathan.
forgive the interrupt. The reason I asked about whether he's still alive, I just please convey my regards to him, because usually for someone to admit that to a child, it takes a lot of vulnerability and confidence. So please convey my regard. That was the purpose of me asking that question. That's incredible.
Thinking about it, I don't think he realized, he probably doesn't remember that conversation, right? He
I
probably doesn't
guess.
remember that. And if he did, he doesn't realize how much of an impact it made on my life. And so there's probably a parenting lesson in there for us
Yeah.
dads, right?
Yes.
Be careful
Yes.
what you tell your children, because they will remember.
Yeah.
For
Yeah.
me, it was, my dad said, to be like these people who I see success, I need to be smart with money, and
Wow.
I need to understand it. And so fast forward till, I don't know, probably like 18, 19 years old, around that
Yeah.
time, that's when I kind of entered the real world, quote unquote, right? I
Yeah.
graduated from my general education. I was
Yeah.
looking to make shifts in my life, looking to say, okay, I'm getting old enough now, looking for a career. And this was the second conversation that affected my career trajectory into finance, and personal finance specifically. Was my dad sat me down, my same dad, right? Same situation. He sat me down and said, Nathan,
How
what
old
do
were you
with your
then
life?
there at the time?
19 years old.
18.
Yeah, so
Excellent.
so fast forward 5 or 6 years. He said, Nathan,
Yeah.
what do you want to do with your life? Right? He's like, you've seen me doing what I do. You see that I enjoy it. What do you want to do? What's your passions? What do you want to do? And
Wow.
truth be told, I had no idea what I wanted to do. And I was
Mm.
very upfront. I said, Dad, I don't know what I want to do. I've got a lot of skills. I have a lot of understanding, right? I have a
Yeah.
lot of resources available to me. I don't know exactly what I want to do, but what I do know, and he laughed at this, not like in a like detrimental manner. Like, he was laughing because it was just so genuine. I said, but the
Yeah.
thing I want to do, Dad, whatever I end up doing, I want to help people.
Wow.
I want to help people.
Wow.
Whatever I end up doing, I want it to be able to help and make a better impact in their lives, whatever that is. And he's like,
Wow.
that's great, Nathan. That's an amazing thing, but what do
Yes.
you want to do? What do you want to, like that's good,
What do you want to
but you
do
can't.
beyond that?
Yeah, beyond that, that's great. I'm glad you want to help people, but what do you want to do?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
and I didn't, and I couldn't answer him, and I didn't know. I didn't know. And so I went to college, just general college,
Yeah.
wanting to just learn, right? I wanted to learn as much as I could, because I thought, well, the more, going back to my personal thing of helping people, it was like, the more I learn, the more helpful I can be to people. And so in
Good.
college, I didn't focus on a single subject, believe it or not. I
Mhm.
focused on everything. I learned
Nice.
everything I could.
Wow.
Because in my mind, I was like, what I later learned was like, hey, if the best way I'm going to be able to help people is if I run something myself. So I had a little bit of an entrepreneurial spirit in my blood,
Yeah.
and I was
Yeah.
like, I've got to build a business to
Mm.
do this. I don't know what that business is going to be doing, but I've got to be building a business. And so I took all the classes I could about business. I
Wow.
took programming. I took HR. I took logistics. I took business management. I took every single class I could to understand. I even took accounting. I even took accounting
Wow.
classes. I did not do
Wow.
very well in those classes, but I still took them and I still understood. And
Yes.
so
Yes.
I gathered this large general information about how a business should work in every asset because I wasn't sure where I would be, right? If I was running a business, what would I be doing? What would I be helping with?
Mm,
Pivot
mm,
to the end of college is when when I got my first introduction to finance, specifically money. And that sparked that whole conversation I had with my dad when I was 13 years old. So when I was finished with college, I was reached out to by a local advisory money firm because I must have shown skill or must have shown
yeah.
understanding enough that I was attractive to this advisory firm. And they said,
Wow.
hey, we would like to interview you for a position with our firm
Hmm.
because you look like you've got it together. You look smart. Let's actually see if you actually are smart. Let's see if it's actually going to prove
Let's test you
itself.
out.
Um, and
Yes.
I sat down with the manager at that point of this advisory firm, and I said it's not for me. I
Hmm.
said that the being an advisor, working in finance, it wasn't for me, believe it or not. And I said no to that
Wow.
opportunity. I said no to
Wow.
that opportunity.
And you had a job or you didn't have a
Yeah,
job?
I had a job. I had a job. I was
Okay.
working well. I was inside sales, logistics. I was doing pretty well, doing
Excellent.
in that growing.
Good.
But I said no to the financial side of stuff, which was
Wow.
kind of strange, right?
Wow. Wow. Right. Absolutely.
So I said no to this opportunity.
Yeah.
But my wife, because I just was newly married at this point to my
Yeah.
wife, we had been married for like 6 months at this point. So we were completely new. We had no idea what we were doing in life.
Yeah.
She was like, hey,
Yeah.
I would like to understand personal finance. So I'm going to go to college for personal finance. And
Interesting.
I said, that's great. Awesome. Maybe you should talk to these advisor people who reached out to me. Maybe they can be a help to you.
Hmm.
Maybe they can give you some good,
Advice.
understanding. And so she interviewed with them and she got the job. Like they were like,
Wow.
even though she had no finance background, she got the job. And she was like, it's great. So
Wow.
she would go to this advisory firm and be helping people and doing finance. And she'd come home from trainings, she'd come home from meetings, and she would just be like, oh my gosh, it was so amazing. And we helped
Hmm.
this individual and
Yeah.
they changed their lives and they cried. And
Yeah.
it was like this whole like thing. And she just felt so passionate about it. And
Wow.
that wore on me because once again, I'm here saying, I want to help people. I don't know how
Yeah.
that looks. I've got all these skills. I want to help people. So I kept hearing this. And this went on for about 3 months where
Mm.
she would do this and she would get
Yeah.
a lot of results. She was making money at this point, which was amazing for
Yeah.
us. And she was just raving about how good it was changing people's lives. And I said, well,
Mm.
wait a minute, maybe I need to relook at this. Maybe I need to
Did I make
relook.
a mistake or something?
Yeah, like I missed something here because
Yeah.
what you're talking about is different than what I thought this would be.
Mm.
And that that started my finance journey, and it started with getting myself educated. So I sat down with his advisory firm. I sat down with the CEO
Yeah.
because I was able to do that. And I said, teach me about money. Teach me what you need to know about money. Because he was a trainer at Franklin Covey for years, and then he had
Mm.
shifted to real estate, and then he had
Mm.
shifted to the financial advisory world. So he had a lot of knowledge. I said,
Broad. Yeah. Wow.
teach me about finance. Teach me about money. How do I make money? And in about 30 to 45 minutes, he taught me more about how money worked and how to make money than my entire college career.
Wow. Wow. So tell me, what did he teach you that you found transformational in terms of how money works, how to make money. So what do you recall that you're living on up to date?
Well, it's not recalling because I live to it to this day. So it's still something this was 9 years ago now at this point that
Wow.
I was taught
So,
this.
so you were 22
So I
then,
was
around that time?
yeah, 21, 22. Now 9 years have come past, and
Yeah.
I've lived this advice that he's given me. And I actively post, I was actively posting about it on LinkedIn for a long
Yeah.
time, helped a lot
Wow.
of people. I need to get back on
Yeah.
that. So, but
I'm all ears. Come on. Yeah, go ahead, please.
what what it can be really kind of simplified down to is your life and the opportunity in your life is not predicated or built upon what you earn. Okay, there's a lot of people who make good money, right? Millions and millions of dollars. I meet with them on a regular basis. I talk with them. I'm partners with them in many ways, and
Yeah.
they make a lot of good money. What actually makes the difference is not what you earn, but what you keep in
Mm,
the
mm,
end.
mm,
This is
mm.
so crucial. And you're going to see this all over the world, Ethan, and you've probably seen this yourself. There are
Yeah.
so many resources teaching people how to earn money, but there's a very small amount of resources telling people how to keep money, right? How to keep it.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah.
And so I look at it this way. I say, let's say someone's earning 100, like if you look at someone's earning potential, there's 100%, like a bar here. And
Yeah.
you say, let's say their life spends 100% of their earnings.
Yeah.
In my mind, that person has no opportunity because they
Mm,
live on the knife's edge of going broke. Because no matter, even if they were making $1 million, if they were spending $1 million, then they've got no opportunity in their life. They have no ability to actually build their life in the way they want to because they're spending everything. They're spending it all.
So it's interesting. Of course, I've heard about that. That's what you keep. But what I love in your that is the word opportunity. You're saying that if you don't have something to two questions. One is how can we actually keep money? What stops us from people like us to keep enough of what we make? And when you say opportunity, how come you're linking to what we keep to opportunity? What is that opportunity you're talking about? Because I feel this is the first time I'm hearing that word. Of you don't keep, you don't have opportunity.
So let's answer the first question. How do you keep money, and why don't people do it very well?
Yeah,
And this is a very
yeah,
common issue that I work with my clients and
yeah.
help with them understand. A big reason why that people do not keep money is they have no reason to.
Mm.
So if I were to ask you, Ethan,
Yeah,
point blank, what are your
yeah.
goals with money?
Good question. So for me, money, it's really three big reasons. One
Okay.
is for to live a comfortable life, so that I'm not worried about things.
Okay.
Two is to create financial security for my family, so that when God calls me home, then on my deathbed, I'm not worried that what's going to happen to my children or my family. To know that at least other things I don't have control, but at least if I know that they have a financial nest, at least I would feel that sense of comfort. And then thirdly, the final piece is using that money to create impact in the world, a bigger impact in the world, because there are many things I'm passionate about, and sometimes I get limited for not because of finances. Because there's a time I was sharing with you earlier how when my father passed on, and we didn't have money for school fees. Of course, that's something now I wouldn't want my family to be in. That should tell you the motivation. But then it's friends who contributed money for me to finish high school to make it to university. So if those people didn't have money, then I wouldn't be having this chat with you. So for me, money would be a twofold in that to help. So I'm passionate about three things. One is formal education because it opens doors or opportunity to use your word. Two is what I call life and business education. That's why I'm into training, consulting, speaking, and coaching. And then the third one is what are those things that helps us as a society from environment, agriculture, entrepreneurship, mentoring, and the like. So but also to live a good life, Nathan, because there's a difference between sitting in a 2 or 3 star restaurant and a 5 star restaurant or sleeping in a 5 star. It feels good because I also believe, the Lord's Prayer that on earth as it is in heaven. So I believe when I have money and I'm experiencing a good life, it feels heavenly. So to have heaven on earth rather than waiting for it up there. So for me, those are I had mentioned three, but the fourth one is to live a good life and enjoy heaven on earth before I transition to the actual heaven described in the scripture texts.
So I love your goals, Ethan, but I'm going to say this with all respect. 99% of everyone else has the same goals.
Wow.
And so you're no different than 99% of everyone else out there. And you're no different than my dad, who was saying, I need to be smarter with money, because he had the same goals. Live a good life, give back, make an impact, and live full. And that's the issue. That's the issue, is people think that they have goals. They think they have a reason, but you can't tell me what your life looks like. You can't tell me, hey, I want to be fine. I never want to worry. Okay, that's good. What does that look like, Ethan? What money do you need to have? Where are you living? Who are you with? What are you doing? What does it mean to not worry anymore? Oh, you want to make an impact on the world. Okay, that's good. What kind of impact? What specific groups are you helping? What kind of technology are you investing in? What kind of things are you building? Like, we're too general. We are too general when it comes to our goals. Okay. And that's the biggest reason, because what you described to me, Ethan, is amazing, but that's not going to make you save money. That's not going to make you keep money. That's going to make you feel good. That's going to make you feel like you have a reason to earn money, but it's not good enough or strong enough or clear enough for you to actually sacrifice your livelihood to make those things happen, right? So this is a very common thing, framework that I work with individuals, and I say, listen, so and so, your goals are amazing. So what are you willing to sacrifice for them right now? And a lot of them, when you really start asking those questions, you say, what are you willing to sacrifice? They're not willing to sacrifice for it. And that's where it's like, hey, well, you know why you're not willing to sacrifice for your goals? Because they're not real. You don't trust them enough. You're not willing to actually do what it takes to save, to keep that. Because when I tell people, I say, great, you want to make an impact. Okay, well, what does that look like? How much money are you saving every month to make an impact at the size that you want to do, right? So if someone says, I want to make a worldwide impact, I'll say, that's amazing. How much does that cost, by the way, to make a worldwide impact? And they'll say, I don't know. I say, well, it's because you don't know how you're making that impact. So you don't know what the cost of it is. So you don't know what to save to make that happen. You don't know what to do to make that happen. So let's say, let's break that down. Let's say, okay, I want to make an impact. Okay, well, I want to make an impact specifically in my local communities. And okay, what does my local community need? Okay, my local community, there's children who don't have money for lunches. Okay, that's a big deal in my community. I've done the research. I know what's happening. So how much does it cost for me to help cover lunches for kids going to school who can't afford them or their parents can't afford them? Oh, that's going to cost me around $200,000 a year because of how many kids there are. So I need to have $200,000 of cash flow to help fund lunches for these unfortunate children, what do I need to do to build money to do that? What do I need to save? How do I need to invest? Who do I need to talk to? What do I need to build to give me $200,000 of income to accomplish this goal? Do you see how when you start really breaking it down? So I'm making an impact. See, I said the same things you said. I made an impact. I'm making an impact. But now I've said, oh, but I have figured out exactly what I want to do with that. And I know exactly what needs to happen. So now I can actually make movement towards that goal. So if I really want to provide lunches for my community, for kids who cannot afford them, then I know that I need to increase my earning, increase my savings, and multiply my savings with investing so that I can accomplish this goal. So even in this hypothetical example, this hypothetical goal, can you see the difference of what you told me and what I just did?
Absolutely. So in my view, yours sounds more concrete.
Mhm.
And meaning, even if I was to wake up the following day, I'm like, okay, how am I exactly on this goal? So what I'm hearing is specifics, and then what I'm willing to sacrifice, or what am I willing to do to bring that to life, so that it's
You
not
are.
just go a dream. So I have also have a specific plan. And you're telling me, oh, Ethan, you're just like the other many people out there. Well, that's I'm fulfilling the mission behind this podcast to learn myself, such that then also other people can learn from this. Love the example that you gave. So how come most of us are in generic terms and not specific terms? Is it this education system? Is it, again, now that's now taking into the blame game? But what do we need to do to make sure that we are living? Let me change the question. What do we need to do to make sure that we are living a more concretized life, to have concrete reasons around making, keeping, and growing our monies?
Well, you've got to be serious about your life. That's like as cheesy as that might sound, you got to be serious about your life. You can't
Mm,
just say, "Hey, I am feeling good. I'm going to drift through life. I'm going to just be on cruise control." Which, you know what? There's going to be about 80-90% of people in the world who are going to just do that. They're going to be on cruise control. They're going to just be doing whatever sounds good, feels good in the moment, and there's no real direction. So you've got to really become clear on your direction. You've got to become clear on that and identify exactly what's important to you and your passions. That's half the battle with money is people don't realize that money is not the end all solve all problem.
yeah,
It's you have a lack of direction and you have a
yeah,
lack of purpose in your life. So no wonder why money is purposeless, because money is a tool. Like just like a screwdriver, just like a hammer, just like a saw, you could have a hammer, but if you have no reason to use it, would you ever use a hammer?
not at all.
So if you have money, but you have no reason to use money, what's the point of money?
Yeah, then there's no reason. No wonder
There's
then
no
we
reason.
waste it. Yeah.
Yeah. So you waste it. So you spend it. So
Yeah.
you live life with whatever you feel like. You spend money wantonly. You have no real individual purpose of why you're spending it. This is a client that I worked with recently who
Yeah.
had this issue, and he confided in me saying, Nathan, I spend because I'm trying to fill an empty hole in myself that I don't understand what's going on. And I said, well, do you know
Wow.
why you have an empty hole? Because you're purposeless. You don't have a direction in your life. You don't have an
Mm,
understanding of what's going on. And he's like, you're
mm,
totally right. And so we worked through that, which most advisors don't do this, by the way. I'm very different when it comes to money advice and coaching advice with my clients. And I helped him for like a year understand what his purpose was and what was going
wow.
on and what he needed to do. Once we had his purpose figured out, I said, Kay, so and so, we have your goals. And he's like, yes, I know exactly what I want to do with my life. I know exactly where I'm going. I know exactly what I need to do. I said, great.
Mm.
You're going to need to save about $3,000 a month to accomplish it. And he's like, okay.
Wow.
It wasn't
And
even a question anymore. It was like, yeah,
yeah,
that's what I need to do. And he was willing to sacrifice and do it.
wow. And one of the thoughts that popped in my head now, right now, is it would also be good to put even personal context for you, from your own story. It would be good. So before you met this amazing gentleman 9 years ago, how was your life like, and how is it like now? What has transformed in your own personal business or family life as a result of using these principles?
Let me tell you what, Ethan, I am healthier, stronger, faster, smarter than I ever was at 21 years old. And I'm almost 10 years older. I am
Wow.
faster, stronger, smarter, healthier than I have ever been in my life, right? I go to the gym 6 to 7 times a week for an hour.
Wow.
And I
Wow.
continue to build myself. I have better relationships with my children and my wife. And to give you an idea, my wife and I have never fought over finances.
Wow.
We have never fought over money. It is not an issue with us as a couple, which, by the way, over 50% of marriages that end in divorce are caused by money. 50%. The, you
I,
know, you've probably
right.
heard that statistic. And so
I've
it's
had
like,
that. It's a scary thought. Eh? It's a
yeah.
scary
So the
statistic.
so the fact that my wife and I, 9 years into our marriage, is it nine? It's nine. uh,
Yes.
whatever it is, we've never fought about money. It's not a pain point for us. In fact, when we talk money, it's an exciting conversation. We love talking about money because we know what we're working on as a couple. Once again, it comes down to we sat down and we identified what we wanted to have our family look like, what our goals were around them, what we wanted to accomplish, what we wanted to do. And so we're very, very, very clear on those goals, and we don't fight, but we dream
Wow.
now. We work
I like
together.
that.
So everything I do with my own finance businesses and things, my wife has complete trust in, because she knows that my goals are her goals, and whatever she does, I have complete trust in her because she's doing the same thing. We're on the same team. And so
Wow.
that's living these principles have saved my marriage, have opened opportunity. And we got to answer that second question of that
Yes.
opportunity.
Opportunity.
It's
Yes.
opened
Yes.
opportunity, and it's increased my life when it comes to, the wealth, and not just wealth and money, but in like living health wise, my day to day, my relationships. And it's opened, and this will be a great segue. It's opened opportunities for me beyond what I ever thought was possible. And this is going to answer the second question, right? What
Mm.
you keep from what you earn, let's go back to that bar, 100% of what you
Yeah.
earn. What you keep is where opportunity is at. And I say
Mm.
that because the more you have to keep, the more you can do. The more you
Mm.
can do, right? So let's say I'm pulling home $8,000 a month, which is pretty decent. That's a good
Yeah.
income, very, very like good, right?
Yeah.
If I can live my life, my family's life comfortably around $6,000 a month, I just
Yeah.
learned how to budget. My goals are set. I have $2,000 a month that I can put to work for me. Okay,
Yeah.
so $2,000. Well, what can we do with that? Well, I could invest that. I could invest that into the stock market. I can invest that into business. I can invest that into individuals. I can use that to build my own business. I can use that to insert here. I can give back to the community. I could buy maybe 5 kids lunches. I don't know how much, but you see what I mean? It's like
Yeah.
that, the
Getting.
what you keep is where you build life. So let's say you can live on 70% of your income. That's how you live life. But that 30% is how you build life. And that's the
Wow.
crucial part. So,
Wow.
so if you're living life to 100% of your earning, you're not building any life. You're only living life. So you've got to learn, how do I sacrifice living life so that I can build life? And that's where opportunity starts coming in. And let me tell you what, Ethan, it's crazy. It's like a universal principle. Every time I teach my clients this, and I say,
Yeah.
we're going to help you learn how to build life versus just living life. I give them a warning. This is my warning. I'll tell you this, Ethan. I'll give you also a
Yeah.
big warning about this too, because now
Thank
you're
you.
going to understand this. The
Please.
minute you start doing this, you start living your life where you're keeping a higher chunk of your earnings and you're building opportunities with that, you are going to be flooded with opportunities. It's going to be intimidating how much will come to you.
I like that. Yeah.
So I warn them and saying, hey, just so you know, you are
Yeah.
going to have a lot of opportunity come to you, and it's going to be scary and it's going to
Wow.
be intimidating because you've never
Wow.
had this happen before. So this is what you
Wow.
need to do when this starts happening. You need to
Wow.
have your goals succinct. You need to have them specific. You need to have your goals so good, because then here's the opposite. Here's what happens. So you not only do you set your goals to help you start saving and building a life, right?
Yeah.
But your goals become a filter for you. They become a filter.
Mm.
So
Mm.
as you're building your life with this, what you're
Yeah.
keeping, and all these opportunities are coming to you, your goals become a filter for you to find the opportunities that help build your goals. They become a
Wow.
filter.
Wow. So I would want to know more, a little more about the filter. There's a question I have, but that filter part, I did not catch it correctly. So you said your goals become a filter. So meaning if my goal is to build an opportunity worth, say, $10,000 and I'm at 2,000. So if something comes and wants to take away my money, I'm like, no, 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 wait a minute. I'm still building this $10,000 opportunity. Is that what you mean by filter?
Correct. Correct.
Okay.
Because you're going to naturally say, oh,
Mm.
that does not fit my goals. Even though it's a great opportunity, it doesn't fit what I'm looking for. So I'm not going to worry about that. I'm not going to
Mm.
worry about that. Another great example, let's say I am building a software company because that's my
Yeah.
opportunity I'm doing, but I get approached for a real estate deal. Well, real estate itself is not a bad opportunity, right? There's a lot of money in real estate. However, if my
Yeah.
goal is to build a software company, does the opportunity of real estate make sense for me?
No,
No.
not at
So,
all. Yeah.
so it's a filter. So I'll say, hey, that's a great opportunity. Maybe in the future, if my goals change and I want to get into real estate, let's talk about that. But right now, that's not in my wheelhouse. So the goal becomes a filter for you, and you attract the opportunities that support your goals, and you filter out the ones that do not. So you no longer have this worry of missing opportunities, because that's what a
Yeah.
lot of people worry about. Like, oh my gosh, I'm
Yeah.
gonna miss something because I'm just,
Yeah.
and they're all over the place. They're frenzied. And that
Yeah.
eliminates that whole idea of saying, great, well, I'm no longer worried about that because I will find the opportunities that fit my goals.
And Nathan, listening to you, two things come to mind. One is some people, I believe that some people really have the specific goals around monies and then of to build things, but then they lack the discipline. So meaning, yes, there's this thing, but then you're like, oh, but this sounds too, let me first take a detour, take advantage of this opportunity. Then the money I make from there, I'll put it here. And of course, 99.9% of the time doesn't work that way. So how does one build the discipline? But before you answer that question, I also wanted to appreciate what you're bringing into my awareness. What I'm hearing is if for every amount of money I make, if I save an extra 30%, then my life will expand by an extra 30% than it was before, compared to when I don't have anything. So that's what I love about your concept of opportunity, in that this what you keep the amount that you keep will determine the size of opportunity. And
Exactly.
and when you're talking about living, in my culture here, sometimes I hear the word surviving. If you're at 100%, for me, I feel like it's not even living, it is surviving. We here in Uganda, where I am from, we call it surviving. So it's not even living per se, you're just surviving day to day, the following day. So, but how do we stay in the lane of those goals of at least for people who already know? So I'm hearing first step is to define those filter the goals, but then how do we stay on the lane, not to get into the shiny syndrome? And just to confirm what you're saying, I have a friend of mine, he's very wealthy. I heard him say this, but I've not practiced it. He said, if I'm working on something, he's into real estate and other, however hot or great an opportunity sounds, I will not look there until I finish what I'm doing. So I just wanted to confirm what you're saying. But now the big issue here is the discipline. How do we do that?
Well, once again, it goes back to, you've got to identify your goals and get so good at those goals that you are willing to sacrifice. That's where the difference is. When the goal becomes so important and real for you that you are willing to sacrifice, that means it's a good goal. So in your example, how do you build the personal determination ever to get away? Well, if it's a good goal, you won't leave it.
Okay,
you will not, like, it will literally become part of you, and you will not allow distractions into your life for that reason.
And talking about goals, how can we best set goals around money and wealth?
Well, it goes back to, once again, what I was saying, the framework. What does this look like, right? You've got your general goals. What does it look like, right? What am I doing? Who am I with? What is the life I'm living? You know, who am I impacting? You've got to really become specific, right? Like in our lunch example, right? I got very specific to say, who are the people I'm impacting, and how much does it cost to do that, and how can I do that today, right? So you've got to start understanding how goals are set, and you've got to be very specific. Like a great example I often pose to my clients is, I'll say, all right, so and so, I have a check for $1 billion. It's $1 billion. It's going to go right to you into your bank account. No strings attached, nothing. You just have $1 billion all of a sudden. I'm giving it to you of free will and choice. What are you doing?
Wow. I don't have a concrete answer around that, and that alone
And you
is
need
so
to.
revealing. Thank you.
You
Yeah,
need
absolutely.
to.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I'm going to write that one down. I really love that, Nate.
Yeah.
I really love that.
And I say $1 billion because it has to be so big that it just does exactly what you just experienced, right?
Yeah.
But that's the truth, is if I truly gave you $1 billion today, Ethan, what would you do with it? And you don't know.
Wow.
You
I've written that question down. I will take it on. I appreciate that. It's a mind shifting question.
It is. I love it.
Well,
Well, thank you so much.
one of the things I hear a lot is people saying, you need to have a good relationship with money, and you're wasting money away because you don't have a good relationship. I mean, if you loved money, if you loved someone, you would keep them close, you wouldn't chase them away. And in a way, I appreciate it from a conceptual perspective. But from a practical perspective, is it really important to have a good relationship with money? And if it is, what does one need to do to develop a healthy relationship with money?
It's everything. Just so you understand, your relationship and how you view money is everything, right? So if you look at money and you say, I hate money because I've never had it and it's hard to get and all of these things, What do you think? How you're going to earn money then? Are you going to
No.
actually earn money if you hate money because oh, it's hard, oh, it's evil, oh, it's no, you're not gonna work for it, right? And so your
Yeah.
relationship with money is absolutely crucial to doing, and identifying, being truly honest with yourself to say, do I really hate money? Do I really hate it? Or do I really love it? Not because I'm putting it above others or I have a love of money and greed. It's like, what is my relation? Do I get stressed about it? Do I get excited about it? Am I anxious about it? And you need to understand why, right? This, like, the psychology of money is so important and it's crucial to your success. For me, early on, I thankfully had a change of mind to saying, instead of, well, that's not fair that other people live a better life than I do, I had to shift to say, well, what can I do differently? What can I do to get the same results? Because then I saw that money was just a tool. It's a vehicle. I couldn't hate it. I couldn't love it. I was just like, hey, it's a tool. So your relationship with money is paramount. And it's really crucial. If you want to be successful in any shape or regard, you have to be in a good relationship with money. You have to look at it as a positive, productive manner. However you do that is up to you, because every individual is different, right? Every person's upbringing is different, right? And
Yeah.
you've got to reconcile yourself with these facts to say, you know what? I grew up and money was plentiful, so of course I think it's great. Or, hey, I grew up and money was not plentiful, so I hate money, so I've got to figure out how to love money in a way. Kind of like marriage, right? If you
Yeah.
hate your spouse, your partner, how long is that marriage going to last?
Won't
Not
last any long. Yeah.
won't last at all. But if you love your spouse and you invest into it and you work with them, how long is that relationship going to last? Hopefully forever. Hopefully a long time. It's
Absolutely.
the same thing with money. If you hate money, your relationship with money will end and you will continue to be bitter, selfish, and angry at it. Or you could love money and fix what's wrong with you in here and in your heart and become on good terms with it. And then you can actually have a good idea around it. So I would say, if you're feeling anxious about money, if you're anxious about talking about money, if you're scared about your future with money, regarding money, I would say you have a bad relationship with money. I would say that you have a horrible relationship with money and you need to fix that. Because if you are not excited about the future, and if you are not happy to talk about your goals and excited to share what you're doing to accomplish those, and you're not actively making results from your goals, if you're not getting those things, then you hate money. So you gotta love money. You gotta
Yeah.
love money, but not in the way
Yeah.
of like greed or selfishness, but you gotta love money because you understand its relationship to your goals. It's a tool, it's a vehicle in the end.
Wow. So, and listening to you, because I had written this when we were introducing yourself, the fact that at the age of 13, you are already thinking, what are they doing different? I was like, that's profound. As a teenager, you're already thinking that way. And yet the majority of people, at least in this world, part of the world where I live, they look at wealthy people as, arrogant or bad people, mean. They typically have negative taglines around them. And of course, already from a subconscious and spiritual perspective, that's dangerous. So I'm saying the majority of people have what you're saying and not having a healthy perspective. Like for you had even at the age of, I'm like, how on earth did he figure that one out at the age of 13? So I'm just asking myself, and to you, of course, is what if I have that negative or unhealthy relationship, and I also believe most times it's unconscious, not aware of it.
Mhm.
So what if someone listening is like, wow, I'm all those things he mentioned. How do I shift that? And secondly, do you believe in this concept of, some of these things are beliefs, energies around stuff, because you hear people who healing energies, shifting beliefs around money to say, the energy around that you have around money is negative, or the beliefs you adopted as a child. Like some of us growing up, money was taboo. It was like this mysterious thing where people kill each other, fight over. And now describing it, that's what I remember growing up as a child in a very poor background. Money was a tool of fights and killing and quarrels and stealing and
Very,
backstabbing.
very negative, very
Very
aggressive.
negative.
Yeah.
Yes, that's what I remember. Now listening to myself, I'm like, yeah, this must have played a big role to have these ups and downs in my finances. So how does one heal this and shift this, both from a spiritual, energetic perspective, but also because I'm also thinking if that is stuck, then all these practical things that you mentioned, which make a lot of sense from a logical perspective, can get stuck or up and down. This energy pulls you back, the psychology from childhood. Is there a childhood trauma around money? I know it's not a laughing matter, but
No, it's true though. It's true. Yeah. Some people will have those things. And so how do you go about that is, well, it's kind of tough because I think you've got to look at yourself and you've got to really start understanding like exactly what you're doing here, Ethan. You're retrospectively looking at, okay, what is my relationship? Sometimes it's just that's all needed. It's just a question saying, how is my relationship with money? And then that starts the healing process and understanding what's going on. And that's the first step, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
I recommend anyone can do that, right? Anyone can say, okay, let me start really figuring out my relationship with money. How does that look? Why do I feel the way it is? It's very common, like psychology, like a psychiatrist, right, would be asking, how do you feel about money? How does it make you feel? Right. The second thing is, and this is not to be like biased at all, but you need someone who can support you in this journey, quite frankly. You need someone who's there to say, not only am I going to help you with this, but you do need someone to direct and guide you to actually do that. And that's where I have found my niche, is saying, hey, I'm an advisor. I'm a guy who works in private equity and finance and advisory worlds. And I understand the psychology of money because I had to deal with myself and figure out myself. Let me help you. And so that's oftentimes a very good combination, where if you have someone who's able to help you process the psychological things about money and help fix those, then you have someone who can actually help you implement those. And that's what I love about what I do, is once again, I kind of encompass both over time now. And so that's what I would say in your regard. How do you do that? Start with the question first. What's my relationship with money? What do I look at with money? How do I feel about money? What's going on with money in my life? Once you've identified that, then you could say, who in my life can help me get over this? Who in my life is someone who would be willing to help me work through this and accomplish those goals?
I like that. So I like, those are really deep questions, and I'm hearing now, listening to those questions. I believe in journaling, so I need to do a lot of journaling around that. I believe I'll get more and more, because I also believe
that, because you were getting it right here on the call. You were starting to like, wow, okay, okay, this is why you were starting to feel that.
Yes, absolutely. But earlier, let me take you back. One question I really wanted to ask you was, I loved the fact that you and your wife have, of course, you both have a healthy relationship with money as a family. You're great at that. And one of my assumptions, and correct me if I'm wrong, because again, I could be wrong, especially given that I haven't met your wife yet, and I would one day hopefully get her own perspective, is that she went to this advisory firm and sought wisdom, and she came home excited, and you also went to the same farm. So in my head, I was like, okay, these are people who are drinking from the same well, so at least they got shifts of perspectives, very healthy perspectives, by the way. and that then you can speak the same language because you're drinking from the same well. But then I'm taking myself, what happens with couples whereby these couples, they have different perspectives around money, and one may be healthy or the other one may be unhealthy, and even, God forbid, both of them are unhealthy, and it's like you're going different directions. How, if one of the spouses feels like the other one is off track, and or you've not had a healthy relationship about money for both of you, or one of you, how do you bring the unity? How, in your coaching, because you do this, I'm sure, what have you found to be useful? What do you advise people whereby one spouse is holding a different view and the other one is a different road, and there's no unity of purpose around moving forward to the kingdom of financial heaven?
Well, this is probably going to scare you a little bit, but most spouses, couples have not even talked money to each other until they meet with me.
Yeah.
They've never actually even broached the subject with each other. They've just, it's been kind of taboo. It's been kind of like, hey, we don't know how to talk about it. We don't know what to do. And it stems from their own personal experiences of, well, they're not comfortable with money themselves. They're not comfortable with their own goals and what they're supposed to be doing. So how can they talk to their spouse about it if they themselves are not comfortable? And so there's a lot of like intermingling things here where you've got to figure out your personal self first and your relationship with money. So then you're in a place of productivity, once again, positive, right? Imagine going into a conversation with your spouse and you are negative about money, that you hate money, that you have like, just imagine how that conversation will go. Right.
I mean, I'm just imagining only negative energy being poured into the space.
You both are fighting over, you both are like, hey, why are you spending so much money? You know, what are you doing with this? Or what, you know, you start getting the classic fighting over money situation. So you've got to fix both yourselves and say, hey, I got to get my personal relationship with finance good to go, so that I am in a positive mindset in order to approach this with my spouse. And then the next step is to understand that your personal relationship with money does not have to be your relationship as a couple. You're going to have two relationships with money in the end. You're going to have a personal relationship with money with how you personally think, feel, and love money. And that's going to be your own personal thing that you're going to figure out. But you're going to have a relationship as a couple with money, and those have to be different. Those have to be different because you've got two people in the other relationship. You've got two different perspectives and two different feelings. And so you've got to identify that, hey, our couple goals are going to be different than our personal goals. They're going to be different. They're going to be influenced by our personal goals. And we need to make sure that we're working on those and doing what we can. But then we need to come together with our knowledge and figure out what works for both of us. And you can't compromise. Okay, this is that's one of the very first things I tell couples is you cannot compromise on these goals. You cannot.
Wow.
Because when you compromise, it means, well, everyone's giving up a little bit to not get what they want. You can't compromise. You have to have goals that you both 100% believe in, love, and work towards too. When you compromise, you can't do that because there will always be a part of you to say, well, it's not fully my goal because I'm giving up and it's not fully what I want. So I'm not going to give everything to it. So you can't compromise. So you've got to find as a couple, what are those uncompromisable goals that you both 100% will support, love, and work towards to with no type of reservation.
Wow. And listening to you and looping back to when we were starting, you're talking about sacrificing. So it means even individual goals besides the family goals. There has to be those goals where you do not compromise at all, no matter what. And what do you then advise people who someone say, but just a little bit, let me enjoy some of this money. I mean, life is too short. Let me enjoy a little bit. Even though I have this goal, what do you say to these people who are saying, look, yes, you have these big goals, long-term goals, but there's the now. How do I enjoy the now? At least I should take some of that.
I love that. So I will be probably the only advisor you ever hear, Ethan, say, that's okay.
Nice.
That's okay. It's okay to spend money. Here's what happens. When you get your goals figured out and you have a plan in place to accomplish those goals and you are accomplishing those goals and you still have money left over, you still have, like, let's say for me with the lunch example, let's say, oh, I don't need to save $200,000 a year because it only costs $20,000 a year type of thing, right? Whatever. And I have money left over from accomplishing those goals. Guess what you get to do? You get to spend that money guilt-free because you're accomplishing your goals. Now, for me, I would say, okay, well, if I'm accomplishing my goals with this money, I still have money left over, then could I use this money to enhance those goals, right? Could I accelerate those goals? Or can I do other things now? So for a great example, I had a dad that I worked with years ago, and he was so worried about money. He was so tight gripped on it that I had to help him unravel that, and we helped him with goals and helped him get some clarity and all this process. And then he told me one day, he said, Nathan, we're doing pretty good, aren't we? I said, yeah, you're doing amazing with your goals and you're moving forward with it. He's like, I still have money left over though. Is that a bad thing? And I said, no. He's like, okay. I said, okay, that's fine. He's like, well, I've been meaning to buy this backyard playground for my children. Because he had 3 boys, very rambunctious, outgoing boys. He said, I need a playground outside so they can play and do what they need to do. And I said, well, why haven't you bought it yet? He's like, what? So why haven't you gotten it? Why haven't you bought it yet? So you have the money, your goals are taken care of, you're doing the right things. So, and why haven't you bought it yet? And he's like, I don't know. I guess I was just afraid that it was going to hurt my goals. And I said, is it? This is money left over. This is money that's not going to a goal. He's like, right. So I said, so how does it hurt your goal if you spend it then? It's like, it doesn't. I said, so let's go back and say, what's your ultimate goals? Oh, you want to be a better father. You want to be more present with your children. You want to not just work every day. Does buying a playground for your backyard accomplish this goal? And he's like, yeah, it does actually. I said, so go spend the freaking $2,000 for the playground because you can. And I had this conversation with another client of mine recently. I got all of his goals figured out. He's saving what he needs to be. He's building a life. He's going to live retirement beautifully, wonderfully. And I said, great. You still have money left over. What do you want to do with that? He's like, I don't know. I said, well, I know for a fact that you want to go on a vacation. So why don't we look up vacations? Where do you want to go? And he's like, what? He's like, yeah, you can go spend this money now. You can go spend because you have freed yourself from being guilty from spending money now because you are accomplishing your goals. You know what you're doing everything you need to do, and you're accomplishing them. So now any money left over is free to use. Once again, opportunity, because that's still opportunity. If your goals only require $1,000 a month and you still have $1,000 left over, well, you still have $1,000 of opportunity to do. And you can use that how you want to build your life. So spend it, build your life how you want.
And thank you, Nathan, for explaining that perspective, because I see some people who have the opportunity money not spending it. And my question goes back now to what happens if indeed you don't have opportunity per se, you even have date. And then someone's like, you know what, this is a special day, at least it's okay, the dates can wait, the goal can wait, meaning people who haven't realized their goal, they are not on target, they are way off. But now, you're in a hole, let's just assume it's $50,000 in the hole. And now you've gotten $1,000 here. Now, instead of paying off debt or contributing it towards your goal, you just get, let's say, of the $1,000, you get $200 to go, that holiday in quotes, or spend it on good clothing. How? And there are people who say, no, at least let me spend it. At least let me spend $50 for my own happiness now. So do you recommend people to do that, or you're like, no, 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 until you have opportunity money, don't?
I'm not a person who likes to micromanage. I'm not going to be the person that is going to be telling you how to live your budget. I'm not going to babysit you when it comes to what you're doing, right?
Like that.
Your money is your money in the end. It's not mine. So I'm not going to babysit you on it. And that's what I tell them. I said, listen, I'm not going to babysit you because you're going to figure it out yourself what's smart and what's not smart. So let's figure out what your goals are first. Let's figure out your direction, your passions. Let's get those figured out. And you naturally will figure out how to do the rest. I used to be like, hey, I'm going to help you with your budget. Let's get it balanced. Let's do this. Oh, you're spending too much money on your cell phone, on groceries. Let's cut that. I used to do that. And it was horrible. I hated it. As a babysitter, I became the enemy for them because I was like, they had to ask me everything. Like, hey, is it okay for me to get gas today? I don't know. Is it? Stuff like that. And so I said, you know what? I'm just not going to babysit you anymore. And I'm going to help you accomplish your goals. And if you have correct principles, see, I truly believe this, Ethan. I truly believe this. If you teach people correct principles, they will govern themselves. And so I said, I'm no longer going to govern you. I'm going to teach you correct principles and you will figure it out yourself naturally. And that happens all the time. Like I'll have conversations with clients who I'm doing this with, and I'll say, how's it going? And they say, well, I just cut my cable bill. I'll say, great. Why? So because it wasn't really working for me and I didn't need it anymore. I'm like, okay, why? Because it's not in line with my goals. Okay, cool. I would have never told them to cut their cable bill because I have no idea. But they did it themselves because I just taught them how to accomplish their goals, and they naturally started filtering out what wasn't accomplishing their goals. And so in your example, right? I don't know. Have I taught you the correct principles, and how will you govern yourself? That's up to you. That's up to you to say, hey, I'm going to put $1,000 to debt, or I'm going to take a little bit of money and go live. That's up to you. And if your goals have been set and you will naturally do that, like that's a much better way to go about money than anyone else can ever will tell you what to do. Better than any budgeting app, better than any type of software, any type of whatever. Learn correct principles and your life will conform to those principles.
Fantastic. I believe in the concept of principles. So in your experience, what are those top 3 to 5 principles that you feel if someone follows, then they'll figure out a way to the final destination? For you, what are those top principles you feel cut across all ages, income levels, that if you follow these, you'll find your destination will be a beautiful one around money and wealth creation?
You need to save more than you realize. Always. That is a principle. I think 30% personally is the starting point.
Wow.
Is the starting point. And I learned that from a decamillionaire. I learned that, who's a personal mentor of mine, is that he started saving 30% of his income at age 21, and he was a debt-free, net worth, cash flow millionaire by 30 years old, living that principle. Wow. So 9 years he had that.
Wow.
30% is the start.
Wow.
I know a lot of very wealthy individuals who save 40, 50, or 60% of their income.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah.
yet we've been taught 10%, 10%, save 10%, 10%. So that's powerful.
So do you know where that came from, by the way? Do you know where 10% came from?
No, no, go ahead and share
It
with
came
me.
from the Great Depression era. It came from when they was told to save 10% in 1919.
Wow.
That's where that came from.
Wow.
That is the monetary advice that people were being told to save 10% during the Great Depression, 1919.
Wow.
1919, 1920. So fast forward to 2024, we're 100 years from when that advice was given. Do you still follow advice that people followed in the Great Depression?
No.
Do you use things that people were using 100 years ago?
No.
So why do you do the same thing they did with money 100 years ago?
Nathan, so for me, that's a mind-shifting piece of wisdom, because I didn't know the origin. And listening to you, of course, it made a lot of sense, because they were living in during depression. And wow, thank you. This is priceless. I really love it.
So
Wow.
30% is the new 10%. 30% is what you should be doing, not because it's some generic advice. Like 30% is where you really are saving enough to actually build your life. Anything less, it's not enough. It's not enough. I like to think of it this way. Think of a clay, right? You're making a pot, right?
Yeah.
A pot requires so much clay, but if you're only giving a little bit of clay, can you make a big pot out of that? You can't. Because if I give you like a handful of clay, but you want to make a pot the size, a 5-foot tall pot, can you make a pot out of a little ball of clay that size? No, you can't.
Not at all. Not at all. Wow.
So you've got to be saving 30% to give yourself enough resources to actually build your life. That's what has to happen. Anything below is just not enough clay. It's not enough.
I was laughing and clapping because the illustration is priceless. Like, oh, light bulbs. Yeah, wow. Because what I'm hearing is we all want a big pot, but not all of us have the discipline to provide enough clay to go and save and provide enough clay to create that. So, but
Exactly.
now I'm seeing the goals clarity in that, okay, if I need to build this big pot, therefore I need a lot of clay. And if I need that clay, if I keep putting little clay, it will take me forever. But if I bring a lot of clay every day or every week or every month, then building that pot will be much quicker. So that's the realization you're giving me. I love that. Oh, I'm feeling taller now.
That's why, once again, I call it the opportunity. Once again, that 30% is how you build life. You can't really build life under 30%. Not anymore.
Wow. So that's principle number one. 30% is the new 10%. Give me what are those other principles?
So the other principle is become clear on your goals, right? You've got to become extremely clear on your life, your passions, right? You've got to have a purpose in your life of why you're saving that 30%, because you will not save that 30% if you have no pot to build. So figure out the pot, right? Figure out, architect your life and do that. So you've got to build that. So the second principle is really get clear on what you want to accomplish, your purpose.
Good.
The third principle is fix your relationship with money.
Okay.
Fix your relationship with money.
Yeah.
Fourth principle is find someone, a professional or someone you trust, who can help you accomplish this. You can't like you look at all the people who are successful in life, and you'll find that they have teams of people behind them.
Yes.
Every single time. And you need to assemble your team, like the Avengers, right? You need to assemble your team to help you accomplish this. So you need to find an advisor. You need to find someone who can help you with your taxes. You need to find someone who can help you with your real estate. Like you got to assemble a team around you. So that's principles. Don't do it alone. Work with someone.
Good. What else?
I think that's really going to cover it all, Ethan. I mean, that's
Okay.
if you have those 4 things, right? Save enough. 30% is a start. Figure out what you're working on. Fix your relationship with money and build the team around you to accomplish those things. You're going to be in the top 1%.
I like that. And the one where I really appreciate these principles, they are priceless. And the one thing though now that I feel you also need to get your insight on, which I feel would complete the principles part, is now the making. Because now this is the saving and building and leveraging. But then how about attracting or creating that money? I know you're also a genius at marketing and building things. So how do I attract that money? How do I make that money? How do I increase my cash flow?
Well, I will tell you once again, if you're doing these 4 principles, the opportunities come to you. And there's some universal, like whatever you believe in, right? If you believe in God, if you believe in the universe, you believe in energy, whatever you believe in, it will bring these things to you. And you will start finding opportunities that will just boggle your mind, right? Like in the last year, for example, this is not to toot my own horn. I've been introduced to $1 trillion opportunities with teams of people across the world that I get to hopefully be part of. And it's like, because I'm doing these principles. And these would not have come into my life if I was not doing these things. If I did not have if I wasn't saving, if I wasn't preparing myself, didn't know what I wanted. Like there's a universal, and I don't want to sound super cheesy here, but that's what happens.
No, I'm with you, man. Go ahead.
Yeah.
This is stuff I believe in. Go ahead.
Yeah,
It
just happens, right? It comes into your life when you are prepared for it. And the reason why people don't have it come into their life is they're not doing these 4 principles. They're not prepared enough. They're not ready for it. If it comes in, once again, it's that $1 billion question, right? Ethan, if I gave you $1 billion right now, what would you do with it? You couldn't answer that. Well, that happens to people all the time. They are given opportunities in their life to make that $1 billion, right? To earn additional cash flow, but they just don't see it because they're too focused on surviving. They're too focused on not knowing what to do, right? So you've got to once again, if you have the correct principles, you will govern yourself correctly. And the same thing happens with life. If you follow the correct principles in life, life will give you what you need. Life will give you lemons. Life will give you opportunities. They will give you people, right? You know, it's like no small chance that you and I are talking, right? You're in Uganda. I'm in Utah, United States of America, right? It's not a small chance that you were thinking, hey, I need to get myself prepared for finance. Oh, you just happen to have me on your show. It's no small chance because you are preparing yourself. You're living what I'm talking about. You're preparing your own mind, your own goals. Obviously, there needs to be more work that's done there, so more opportunities come to you. Our own conversation right here should tell you how to increase your own cash flow because you're starting to live and see it. Because I'm now here.
Yeah, man, you're speaking stuff that I'm laughing. I'm like, keep going. Of course, I know we don't have 10 hours. You know, what you are saying, I was sharing with one of my staff members. I told him, look, I had started doing sales training for one of the network marketing companies because I believe that some of the stuff I have is really powerful. So I told him I was on module 4. And so we went to another company to pitch, to sell team building for them. And then the gentleman, the CEO, was like, by the way, can you help us with our sales team? It's an insurance company. I'm like, yeah, I can do that. I've already started the program. I'm training this insurance company and all that. So I was sharing with my staff member. I said, see, this thing of preparing is amazing. I mean, how on earth did this guy know? And then he said, I can see the way you're presenting yourself and the like. But I know it wasn't just presenting. I believe at an intuitive spiritual level, you could tell that, hey, this guy already has the tools and the ideas to help our team. Just the same way those opportunities now are coming to you, they can tell that you're a master of money and you're going to add value, whatever that $1 trillion thing is. Just like those other financial industry guys, advisory, they saw a smart guy at a young age. Now, of course, because you're a better person, you're attracting bigger opportunities. So I'm with you, man. That's profound. And the other, as we're coming to towards the end. So for me, it would also be good for you to share with us what are those top 3 to 5 resources or books that you would recommend for a person like me who is on this journey to master the game. Oh, before the game, how on earth was I going to forget this? What is wealth to you, Nathan?
Wealth is the freedom to do whatever I want. That's wealth. It's not money. Money helps that, but it's wealth to do whatever I want, wherever I want, with who I want.
I like that. I shall ask no more around that. Thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
And what are those top 3 to 5 books that you would recommend to a guy like me who is, this is a question I love. I love books, so I love reading. So I'm always very keen. So for you, what are those top 3 to 5 books you'd recommend to a person like me on such a journey?
So this is going to be interesting because there's a couple of books that you probably wouldn't expect would help this, but have to help develop this mentality and help me do this. The first one that will help you is a book called by Napoleon Hill, which you probably have heard of. He wrote Think and Grow Rich.
Yes.
Everyone knows that one. I think it's awesome, but I think it misses the mark in many ways. But there's another book that Napoleon Hill wrote that is considered the sequel to Think and Grow Rich that's not as popular. It's called Outwitting the Devil. And that by far is one of the best secular books I have ever read, right? From a non-religious book. That is one of the best books I have ever read. Like if you were going to say, is there a religious book for the non-religious world? That is the book, Outwitting the Devil by Napoleon Hill. Because that will teach you not only the principles of Think and Grow Rich, but how to apply them in real life. It's really amazing because Napoleon Hill, it's kind of like a documentary of him writing this and him discussing the principles of Think and Grow Rich with the devil. Now, whether it's legitimately that happened, whether, and that's kind of like a preface to that Napoleon says in the book. He says, whether this actually happened, I don't know. It was real enough to me that I was talking to the devil, but I don't know. But the principles of Think and Grow Rich and applying those to outwitting how the devil fights against production, against moving forward, is big. And so that would be the first book I recommend to people read if they're looking for a secular, non-religious book. Those ones. Do those ones.
Cool.
The other 2 books that I would recommend reading, and these are religious books because I'm a religious man. I'm a religious guy. I believe in God. That's how it is.
I believe in God, so go ahead.
The Bible. You better be reading the Bible. You better be understanding it. You better be really praying about it and getting your relationship with God good. The second book, the Book of Mormon. That's a companion scripture to the Bible, and it has taught me more relationship about God and my relationship with him and understanding him more than anything else. And these 2 religious books have set me up better than anything else in my entire life. And so I recommend those two books. Search, ponder, and pray them. Pray about them, because God is a big part of people's lives, and he's a big part of my life. And I'm just blessed to have what I have in my life because of him. And those are the books that have helped me come closer to him, because I believe that they're Holy Scripture at this point.
Excellent. And I know you're a family man. I know you have a 6-year-old and a 2-year-old and a baby on the way. So baby girl, looking forward to that. I have a 10-year-old girl and a 7-year-old girl that I love dearly. And one of my goals is to make sure that for them, they're in a much healthier state financially, to have a much better relationship with money and wealth than I have up to this age. So what are you telling your children to make sure that what are you teaching them or telling them? And what would you advise parents like us who still have a good chance, especially that children are still young, or even those who are older? What would you advise parents to be sharing, teaching, engaging their children? And I've given you an example, like for me, to help them live a better life with their personal finances and their wealth creation.
Well, it just starts like how we started in this conversation when I asked my dad the question, why are they more successful than us? And he said, because they're smarter with money. It starts with being brutally open and honest with your children. It starts with saying, listen, money is important, and mom and dad are very serious about it. Let me tell you about the goals that we're working on. So my sons understand to a point the goals that we are working on. They don't know everything about them. They don't know they don't understand it all, because they're obviously children. But sharing the goals as my wife and I have with them has now brought them in, and they feel a responsibility to it. They feel included in that. And that's big, because that alone has influenced them more than anything I could say or teach them, right? So be brutally honest with your children about money, and let them know about your goals, so then they can participate. And they can't do anything with them, right? They're not going to go out and get a job. They're not going to contribute to that, but they are going to listen. They're going to see you as an example of how to live, and they're going to learn that, and they're going to remember that. And that's crucial. And then, of course, live the principles that I've taught today. Live the principles, because children watch. They look at you, they watch, and they pick up. So if they're seeing you and your spouse fighting about money, what are they going to think? Well, money's evil. Money's bad. It caused mom and dad to fight. So money is obviously not good. So now their relationship with money is bad. And now they've got to work on fixing that. So you live the principles, they will pick up on it. Like it's kind of funny. I talk about how I'm healthier, stronger, and faster because I go work out 6-7 times a week, almost every day. Well, I will often, like, my 2-year-old knows when I go to the gym. My 2-year-old, he'll say, "Dada, you go swim," or "Dada, you go work out," and he's 2 years old, and he recognizes when I go to the gym. He's 2.
Wow.
He knows that I'm going to do that. And my older son, who's 6 years old, I've caught him doing things to say, like, "Hey, I'm working out. Hey, I want to get stronger like my dad. Hey, I see what my dad is doing, and I want to be like him." And I'm like, "That's great." Well, guess what? Dada goes to the gym and works out because he wants to be healthy. And he's like, "Okay, well, I want to be healthy too. So I'm going to eat better food. I'm going to work out. I'm going to exercise. I'm going to be strong. And I'm going to do all these things." Like a personal goal. Once again, here's a personal goal that I have, that I've developed, and helps me push, because going to the gym 6 to 7 times a week is a lot. And I don't go like for 15. I go for an hour plus to the gym.
Wow.
And I swim and I weight workout, it's a sacrifice. It's a lot of work, okay, to do what I do.
Wow.
But my goal, the reason what drives me to do that sacrifice, even though this is not money, but the principle's the same, my goal is that I can outrun my children till they're 16 years old.
I like that.
And that's my
And
goal. That's my goal. So I sacrifice every single day. I go to the gym, I work out, I eat healthy, I do what I need to do because I want to be able to outrun my children until they're 16 years old. Same principle, same approach to money.
and why would you want to outrun them? What's inspiring you, motivating you? What would that do for you?
Because I see a lot of fat dads. I see a
Wow.
lot of unhealthy, unorganized, just very unhealthy dads in my life who are fat, who are not energetic. They don't have the energy. They can't keep up with kids, and they have health issues. My dad is one of them. He has worked so hard his entire life to be active and healthy, and he has heart problems. So, and I don't know if those are genetic. I don't know if I have heart issues. So, I want to avoid all of that. I don't want to hurt when I'm older. I don't want to be slow when I'm older. I don't want to be fat. I want to look good. I want to be confident. So, it all goes back to that's why I want to outrun them to 6. Because if I can outrun my kids till they're 16, my kid is 6 years old right now. It's 10 more years. That puts me at 40 years old. If I can outrun my 16-year-old at 40 years old, then I'm doing pretty dang good.
Oh, no, outstanding. If you can, not
Yeah,
just good.
outstanding. Top
Yeah,
1% of the world, and that's what I want.
yeah,
That's what I
yeah,
want.
yeah, yeah. And I'm glad you brought that up because I actually wanted to engage you on that. When I was like 6 to 7, not everyone can say that. Very few. I'm sure it is 0.00 something percent who can say what you are saying. Working out 6 to 7 days a week. Haven't hit that goal yet, that ritual yet. Even though it's not like I'm overweight or anything, but I feel whether I'm in my size is okay or not, I should be reaching that level. So I'm just curious quickly, is that when did you develop this habit? And I know your why, but when did you develop this habit? When did you develop that philosophy? And how come? And what have you been doing to make sure that you stay consistent? Because the issue is really consistency. Also.
So it started like 10 years ago, honestly. Me taking it serious. So when I was working at my job before the finance stuff, there was a gym at the work. And every lunch, like 6 or 7 guys would go to the gym, and they were buff. They were big. Like their arms were as big as my thighs. Like they were just massive dudes. And I never want to be that big. I don't. It's unachievable, and I don't want it.
I hear you.
But I started going with them every day,
Yeah.
just at lunch. I started figuring out how to work out consistently. I had worked out really well. I was athletic in school. It wasn't like I never had done sports before, so I knew how to work out, but I didn't know how to make it a lifestyle. And so I started just naturally going because everyone else was going to the gym every lunch period at work. And that was 5 days a week. And I would just do that every week. And it wasn't like I was really killing myself. I wasn't following the same things they were doing. I was just like, I'm just going to go be active because I'm sitting at a desk all day. I need to go burn some energy and do that. So I just started doing that, and I just started building the habit. That was what the most important thing was, is I just, hey, I'm going to go for half an hour every day, not do a ton of work. Like it's just how it is. And so I started doing that. I got back into swimming. I swam in my teenage years, and I got back into swimming, and I just started going to a class. I started going to a class as well. I started getting so the first initial thing that helped build the habit was I found groups of people who were doing that. I found support groups. Right. I had my coworkers who went to the gym, and I had the fellow swimmers who were doing the same workout as I was. So I found people who were doing what I wanted to do, and I went with them. I was part of the crowd
Wow.
at that point. So I started doing
Wow.
that.
Wow.
And I just kept that up for years. And I just kept doing that. Eventually, I didn't need the group of people anymore.
Mm.
I
Mm.
didn't need, I just kept going and I kept doing it. And so eventually it came to the point where I had specific goals. Once again, it comes back to setting specific goals. Why did I want to continue working out? Why did I want to continue sacrificing? Why did I want to continue feeling good? And it went from, well, I wanted to look good to I wanted to feel good. And then I wanted to be good. And those
Mm.
changed over time as I kept going. And so now 9, 10 years of working out consistently, in the last 2 years have I really only started going like 5+ times. So now I go 6 or 7 times a week, and I love
Wow.
it because it's just part of me. And it just started with those little changes. And I tell everyone about, especially when it comes to working out. Working out's one of those things that everyone starts and stops. Right now, people are probably stopping their New Year's resolutions because of it's so hard. I tell people I give 80% every single day. I don't give 100%. I don't give 110%. I don't do that. I give 80% every day. And maybe if I
Mm.
want to push myself, I'll give 85, 90, but I never go 100%, even in my
Mm.
work, even in my jobs and my projects and working out, I never go a full 100% because I recognize that going 100% every day is not sustainable. It's
I hear you.
not consistent. No one can give 100% every. I don't care who you are, right? You can't give 100% every day, right? So I'll go
Mm.
80% because I know I can do 80% every single
Wow.
day. And
Wow.
so if I'm at the gym, so quite frankly, my 80% is probably someone's 125%, right? Because I've
Yeah.
built up over time, that 80%
Yes.
has changed to become
Yeah.
stronger, bigger,
Yeah.
longer, right?
Yeah.
Like for me, I swim a mile and I can do that.
Wow.
I'm pushing to do that in 22 minutes right now. And
Wow.
so, that's like a top 1% of swimmers in the entire world. Well,
Wow.
I didn't start at that. There was a time that swimming a mile was my full 80%. It was even sometimes 100% because it was so much. Well, swimming a mile for me now is kind of a warm up at this point. Still 80%, but it's my 80% is different. So
Wow.
I would recommend if you want to build habits with money or anything in the world, give 80% every single day, just 80%. You don't need to give, you don't need to kill yourself. You don't need to put everything 80%. Find groups of people that help you and are supportive and in your goal that are doing the same thing. Accountability. And that's a great way to start. And just never stop doing that. 80%,
Wow.
be around people you want to be who are doing the same thing.
Wow. Wow. I'm glad you went into detail around that, Nathan, because it may sound like cliche, but it's true that your health is your wealth. It's foundational to everything. So for me, that's why I was keen to dig a bit more, and I appreciate you sharing that. And I will, it gives me extra motivation to be even more consistent with my exercise regimen. So
Do
I
it.
really appreciate
Yeah.
that. So
80%.
80% consistently. And what else would you like to share with people listening, or a person like that you haven't shared yet that would be useful in terms of my personal finance and wealth creation for me and the people listening and watching?
Well, I'm just going to sound like a broken record. I'm going to sound like a broken record. Once again, if there's nothing else you take from this, remember 30% is the start. Your relationship with money matters. Understand your goals intimately and find someone who can support you. Get the team to support you around that. Those 4 principles alone will make you millions of dollars in your lifetime, and may potentially make you billions if you can figure out how to do that, because the opportunities will come for that. They will come as you do those 4 principles. That's it. I mean, broken record out. That's what I live. That's what I do. That's what I teach my clients, and I help them implement that over and over and over again.
Wow. What I love is that your principles are straightforward, they are simple, but genius is in simplicity. I also acknowledge that. Now, the issue is really the practice and the discipline. And the last principle you talked about the support system, and I know you support people around that. So, tell us a little more about that. Where can people find you if they need more support? Because listening to you, once after this conversation, I want to engage you for a few more minutes to dig a bit more. But so how can people reach you? What are those resources out there? Where can they start from to tap into the support system you've been providing for over 9 years now?
So the easiest way to get access to all of this is me on LinkedIn. I am very active on LinkedIn. I have a lot of my resources already on there. My content all talks, like if you go back and look at my content, you'll see I'm talking about these principles all the time. And so that is the best way that you can reach me or find support or get the resources is through my LinkedIn, right? Message me, connect with me. Make sure to say that you found it through Ethan, because I get a lot of connection. I don't respond to connection requests unless I know where they're coming from, essentially.
Yeah.
So
cool. Fantastic. So it's been really fun. It's like getting a $2,000 consultation without paying.
Right. I'll tell you what, Ethan, you're lucky, because this usually costs around $4,500 a year to get this type of connection right here. So, you're welcome.
Wow. No, I appreciate that. And I meant that not to make you feel good. I really meant that from the bottom of my heart, because these are real. Now, like just the 10% to link it to depression, like, whoa, wait a minute. Over 100 years of miseducation, so to speak, because I believe it's Jim Rohn said that if people knew better, they would do better. So now I've been processing this stuff. So I'm going to take you on these principles and listening to you. And I really believe I've gotten more than the value of $4,500 of wisdom, just what you've said. And I really mean that, because I really believe if I do these 4 principles that you've mentioned and I just implement this, then it's priceless. It's way beyond that $4,500. So, man, I appreciate the fact that you have this mission and purpose, and I like the fact that you're very clear in your communication and doing this stuff. So may the good Lord bless the works of your hands and your wisdom that you're sharing. And for me, part of what I'm taking is to take my exercise regimen more seriously, beginning tomorrow morning. Let me see how I can be more aggressive, not to wait for challenges, but to take it on and start to tap into more opportunity. So for the rest of us, please follow Nathan Vaughn. Yeah, his LinkedIn, indeed, when he says active, he's active. He even has a newsletter. I would encourage you to sign up for his newsletter, engage with his content. It's practical content. And if you need more, of course, you can go to ethanmusolini.com or go to succeedingdaily.com. That's where I have over 50 hours of content, which I wanted to sell for $500 to $1,000. God told me to give away everything for free. Follow me on YouTube. Just go to youtube.com/Ethan Musolini UG. And if you need help or coaching, whether it's in executive communication, public speaking, life and career development, then go to ethanmusolini.com/coaching. So other than that, go forth. Remember the 4 principles, especially save more than 30% is the new 10%. Be clear on your goals and purpose, and fix your relationship with money, and find a group of professionals to help you. And Nathan Vaughn is one of those people I would highly recommend. So Nathan, it's been good, my brother, to talk about this stuff. I feel energized and excited.
Good.
And as you know, it's very late here in Uganda. It's very late in the night, and yet I feel like the day has just started. Yeah, you really.
It's just started for me, so you know.
Yeah, of course. So greetings to your family, and I'm looking forward to us connecting more and engaging more and seeing how we can, different spheres of influence to make this world a better place. God bless.
Fantastic.